was obviously starting to slow down because we were getting into those morning hours.
Officer Steve Day works the graveyard shift in Edmond, Oklahoma. Just before 6 a.m., a call comes over his radio.
The dispatcher told me it was possibly a DOA, which made me think, well, obviously, it sounds like pretty serious.
Day is the first to arrive at 1228 Harding Avenue, a one-story ranch house.
I could see a female standing in the doorway. Porch light was on, door was open. And as I got to her, I could tell she was saying, "He's dead. I know he's dead. Is he dead?" And she had her hands over her mouth and her face. And as I got closer, I could tell she had blood on her hands and her face.
The officer steps inside and finds 27-year-old Gary Larson on the floor.
He was laying up in a corner, and he had large stab wounds on his chest. It was fairly obvious to me that he was dead.
As the sun rises over Edmond, a homicide investigation unfolds. Detective Chuck Good takes the lead and starts by questioning his only witness. She tells Good that she and her fiancé, Gary, were in bed when they heard a noise.
Gary Larson gets out of bed, walks down the hallway. She hears, the panic moans, the oh, and she gets out of bed at that time, and she can just make out a figure in the dark walking towards her, and she thought that the guy only had on underwear.
Gary Larson's fiancé says she was raped and tortured for 3 hours. The woman provides police with a description of her attacker, and she is taken to the hospital, where semen is recovered from her body. Meanwhile, crime scene technician Rocky Yardley surveys the house and stops underneath the victim's bedroom window.
We found some footprints, and we found an impression where someone had sat down. Maybe some car went by and they sat down to hide a little bit. So there was obviously activity in that area.
After observing his victims for a while, the killer apparently cut his way through a screen and entered the house.
The screen was cut in an L shape from top to bottom. Not a big opening was there, so we knew it wasn't a big gentleman that went through there. But climbed right in, right underneath the streetlight, which was incredible for somebody to do that, take that kind of chance.
Inside the house, investigators catch a break. A single bare footprint in blood in the hallway. The print is photographed and examined.
And you can see the big toe here and the next toes, following toes, right in here, and then down this way would be the backside of the foot. And after they enhanced it, they were able to take a photograph of it, which showed some good identifying marks and ridges.
The footprint carries enough detail for forensic comparison. Now detectives just need to find a suspect to compare it with. For 4 years, Good searches for the footprint, determined to crack Edmond's only unsolved homicide. In the end, however, the detective comes up empty. Diane Larson is Gary Larson's sister.
And there was no reason, no person to blame, no face to blame. That was the worst part.
Over the years, she keeps in close contact with Edmond police, hoping they will find the man that killed her brother.
I never went longer than 3 months without calling the detectives to see what they were doing, because I didn't want them to stop doing something. And they never gave up hope. They always gave me hope that someday they would find it.
As time slips by, the hope gets harder to come by.
It wasn't fair that Gary was murdered, and he was just a light in my life. And I would think that had it been reversed, had it been me that had been murdered, that he would have done the same for me.
In 1990, Gary Larson's murder slips into the cold files, where it will stay for almost 14 years, until a young boy looks out his bathroom window and finds a grown man looking in.
So my son was back here to take a shower and, looked up through this window and said he saw a man. In
a small house in Edmond, Oklahoma, Scott Eggleston has a rather large problem. a peeping Tom.
So at that point, I thought, well, we'll see what we can do.
Eggleston believes the peeping Tom might return and sets up an infrared beam outside just underneath his children's bedroom windows. In 4 weeks' time, the peeper returns, and an alarm sounds in the Eggleston's house.
There's this 6'2", 250-pound, 38-year-old man standing back here in the bushes looking in the bathroom window. I noticed he's all in black, he's barefooted. The minute I turn the light, he grabs the turtleneck and pulls it up, over the bridge of his nose.
The man takes off running down the street. Eggleston is right on his heels.
I jump on his back and put my arms around his neck. I feel the only wrestling move I know on him. And we roll to the ground, and I'm still screaming bloody murder. Call the cops, I caught him.
Minutes later, Edmond police arrive and arrest the peeper, a local ID'd as 39-year-old Jonathan Graham. Investigators believe they have captured nothing more than a nuisance, a man who likes to look through people's windows. What they don't realize is they have much more. A man who not only looks through windows, but also climbs in them.
So we wanted to get an idea of everything that had actually taken place.
On April 13th, 2004, Detective Steve Day visits the Eggleston home and walks the perimeter. The visit is a routine follow-up to the peeping Tom arrest 8 days earlier.
I walked around the corner. I got to about here, and what I saw was pretty thick bushes over that back window. And it was at that time that I first got a feeling, kind of an adrenaline feeling. I don't know how else to explain that. And I said, where are we? Realizing that this is the neighborhood where Gary Dale Larson was killed.
Day's mind flashes back to a crime scene 18 years cold. A suspected peeping Tom, a torn screen, bare footprints etched in blood, and Gary Larson, dead on the floor.
The feeling that came across me made me think that looked the same as Gary Dale Larson's house.
Back at the station, Day pulls out a map and plots the two crimes.
This is about the location where Scott Eggleston lived, and then on this corner was where Gary Dale Larson was killed.
The detective runs a criminal history on Graham and learns of an arrest out of Texas. What piques Day's interest is what police found in the trunk of Graham's car.
Handcuffs, double-edged knives, army knife. There were gloves.
Day swears out a warrant for Graham's home. Among the items seized, the suspect's personal computer.
I found some both still imagery as well as video files, and they totaled 850.
Jeff Hancock digs further into Graham's hard drive and uncovers the piece of evidence police have been searching for.
In the same area of the hard drive were the pictures of from the Eggleston's residence.
On April 23, 2004, Graham is booked on multiple counts. His feet are inked, and the prints are sent to the crime lab where police hope to make their case for murder.
In this general area, right here, I was able to locate enough unique identifiers that I could say that this latent impression was made by the same source as this inked impression.
This is the foot that so many people looked for 18 years.
2 months after the print match, DNA testing confirms Graham is the donor of the semen recovered from Gary Larson's fiancée. On January 5th, he pleads guilty to murder, rape, and burglary in exchange for life in prison and a sit-down with police.
I just went out to peep and went to that street, and it was just opportunistic.
So what happened next?
I went through one of the front windows and wandered around the house for a while in the dark, and I bumped into Gary coming down the hallway and was surprised.
Gary Larson's life was gone in a heartbeat, taken without a moment for reflection, for pause, or for those who loved him to say goodbye.
I think for my whole life I'm going to be just devastated about it because of what might have been. But I will never forget what happened.